So if you go to senoraglass.com, there's a whole bunch of things, but you see the blue icon that says From Talk to Tech, and that has 20 activities in it, and we're going to be doing probably 9 or so, depending on the time. The first thing that we're going to do is something called TPRStorytelling. It's a version of TPRStorytelling. And here's the, before you do that, I'm sorry, let's get to some of the reasons why. Thematic. Organizing in a thematic way, it has been shown to be very, very effective. Storytelling of any kind, or links of any kind, the brain does best with that. And here's some of the research. There's lots and lots of research. It's called conceptual glue because your brain goes from one link to another, and it associates. And of course, we know this instinctively, but it has been shown, by research as well. So, for example, it doesn't have to be a story. It doesn't have to be fiction. It can be, let's say you're teaching Japanese, and there's an article in the newspaper that you want your students to explore, and it's about, the theme is healthy living. And this article is about, in Japan, there's a trend to do yoga with pets. And you lift your pet, and you do all of these movements, yoga movements, with your pet. Would high schoolers be interested in that? Yeah, it's kind of cool. And this is part of your healthy living unit, and you want to take this and you want to explore it, but you need to introduce the vocabulary, and the students don't know all the structures. So it's a very long article. You'll take the first paragraph and you'll turn it into a TPR story. So TPR stories don't have to be fiction, fairy tales, folk tales. It can be nonfiction. It could be a very, very long piece, and you take pieces of that, and you introduce a piece at a time, then you attack the paragraph, and then you attack the whole structure. So it's very effective. So why is it so effective? Because you are putting a theme to it, and you're making connections, and the connections get longer and longer and longer. This idea of themes has finally taken hold, and the new advanced placement Spanish exam is organized thematically. And these are the themes: global challenges, personal public identity, science and technology, beauty and aesthetics, contemporary life, families, and communities. Thematic learning, thematic teaching, and now thematic testing. So thematic is definitely the way to go. But themes are abstract and global and all-encompassing. You've got to get the words, the sentences, the phrases. You've got to get the nuts and bolts, and that's what these activities are about, the nuts and bolts. Best classes I've ever seen, or I've ever had, are where all the students are participating all at the same time. Noisy, administrators don't understand it, but if everybody's talking and engaged in the target language, that's heaven for me. So we're going to get talking and we're going to get moving. TPR stories, why do they work? Well, there's a lot of comprehensible input. There's the visual, you have a picture. There's the movement, the gesture, and then there's the words. And when you marry these three things, the movement together with gesture, together with picture, you're hitting a lot of parts of the brain and making it more solid. So sometimes I'll have students taking a written test, and I see them going like this. And what they're doing is they're bringing to mind the words by using the gestures. And here's why I propose this, because I've been teaching for a very long time. And sometimes I have the students the year after and the year after and the year after that. And if I go like this, they say quiere, because they learned it, they learned the gesture with the word, with the story, with the context, with the picture. It's very effective. So what's a story? A story is something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Very simple story structure. And we're going to do one. And I'm going to challenge you to go along with it, even though it might feel kind of funny. But I've done this with high school, and I've done this with adults, and I've done this with lots of little kids. I'll just give you a little brief intro to the story, since when you're not in Spanish class for a long period of time. The first thing Stories with Gestures. By the way, anybody know this book, Languages and Children Making the Match? Helena Curtin and Carolyn Pessoa. Anyway, if you go to Stories with Gestures, I've written that chapter, and they don't call it TPR storytelling because the TPR storytelling folks do translation, and they didn't want to endorse that translation, so this is TPR stories without the translation feature. I start a thematic unit and with the magic bag, which you saw before. So we're going to do that, real quickly. The story. Well, you can tell me a little bit what you think the story is about. Saca algo, por favor. Gracias. Ajá. Eso es la llama. Es un animal que vive en el Perú. ¿Y qué más hay? Ajá. Y este es el peruano, es el chico del Perú. ¿Y qué es este? Ajá. Esta es una zampoña o antara. Es un instrumento musical. Es un instrumento musical. Es del Perú. Levanta, por favor, levanta. No levantes, no se levanten. Levanta, por favor, la llama. Levántale. Muy bien, señalan la llama. Muy bien, perfecto, excelente. Levanta, por favor. No, la llama. Levanta, por favor, la antara o la zampoña. Aquí está. Señalan, por favor, la zampoña. La llama, la zampoña, la llama. Muy bien, zampoña o antara. Muy bien, bájalo por favor. Levanta por favor el peruano. Levanta, señalen el peruano, por favor. Muy bien. Y la llama. Muy bien. El peruano. La llama. El peruano. La zampoña. La antara. Muy bien, excelente, muy excelente, okay. Switching to English, the sign should be up. You have to imagine the sign that stays in Spanish. So, can anybody tell us where this story is going to take place? Okay, there we go. And there's a boy, and this boy is a Peruvian, it's a boy, and there's water, and the water is rising and rising, and the boy is scared, and he runs. So, how is this a story? It's very short, it's very simple, but there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're introducing the character, and the character is actually the boy in the water. Then there's a conflict, which is that the water is rising, and then there's a resolution, there's an end. He runs, and that kind of saves the day. Everyone here can do TPR storytelling because it takes not so much talent, really. Here is it in the book that I showed you, the chapter that I wrote. Oh, well, you can't see it very well, but these are stick figures. It took me 5 minutes. Stick figures to tell the story. You don't need to be an artist. But to show up a little better, I have a little PowerPoint. Hay un niño. Don't repeat, just listen. Hay un niño. Hay un niño. Niño. Hay un niño. could imitate my gesture. Hay un niño. Hay agua. Hay un niño. Hay agua. Hay agua. Hay un niño. You guys are great participants, I love it. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. Hay agua. Hay un niño. El agua sube y sube. El agua sube y sube y sube. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. El niño tiene miedo. Miedo. Niño, niño, niño. Agua. Sube. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube, sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. 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 Agua. Niño. Sube. Miedo. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Corre. Agua. Hay agua. Hay un niño. Sube, sube. Corre. Miedo. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Now, the sign switches back to English just for you. And so here's the next step in TPR storytelling. Step 1 is to present the story. Present the picture with the words, with the gestures. You present them together. You take them out of order to make sure that everyone knows. So if I say niño, what are you all going to do? Excelente, perfecto. If I say agua, if I say agua sube. Okay? Now, here's how I know. Here's my comprehension check. I'm going to ask you in a moment to close your eyes. And I'm going to say the words. And you're going to do the gestures. Just do the gestures. I'm not asking you to produce anything, because step 1 is interpretive. You're interpreting to see if you've gotten it. So I'm gonna see as the teacher, and don't be embarrassed, because you know what I'm gonna do? Since you're adults, I'm gonna close my eyes too. I'm not gonna look. I don't want anybody to be embarrassed. I promise I'm not gonna look. So, but I'm gonna say the words, and see if you can do the gesture that matches the words. Okay? So, right. 1, 2. When I count to 3, close your eyes. Me too. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Okay, open your eyes. How many of you felt that you were able to match the gesture with the words? Okay. How many of you are not Spanish teachers and don't speak Spanish and felt that you could match the gesture with the words? Okay, of those people who's not a Spanish teacher and doesn't speak Spanish, of those people, is there anyone brave enough to come up or stand up at your seat and do the gestures as I say them? Okay. Okay, you don't know any Spanish? Zip. Okay. Let's give her a round of applause just for being brave enough to try it. Okay. Hay un niño, hay agua. El agua sube, sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Oh. Very nice. Very nice. For those of you who don't speak Spanish and don't know any Spanish at all, raise your hand if you think you understood the meaning of the story. Okay. All right. So, what made you understand the meaning? The pictures and the gestures together, it gets you the meaning. Okay, so here's the next step. Here's the next step in what we would normally be doing. You would be with a partner. We're not going to do that because you haven't had enough practice. But the next step would be you would be with a partner. One would say the words, and the other would do the gestures. And then you'd switch. And you go back and forth, and you practice a little bit. Now, with the little kids, they know it already, and they don't need to see what's up there. But normally, what I would do is leave it up there, because sometimes there are kids who need to see the visual, even little ones. But I wouldn't leave it in sentences. I would just have a cue. So I would have ay, and then niño, and then agua, and then just the word sube, and tiene miedo by itself, and then corre. So they're not reading the sentence by sentence. It's just a cue. It's a prompt. So I'm going to ask you one more time to not look at this and see if even after this interruption, you can do the gestures. Hay un niño. Hay agua. El agua sube y sube. El niño tiene miedo. Corre. Okay. So that's TPR storytelling, or my version of TPR storytelling, because for comprehensible input, rather than English, we're using other means of comprehensible input. The picture is very powerful, the gesture is powerful, and of course it matches the words. Then you're going to tell each other the story. Then, here's your homework. Your homework is to go home and tell your parents a story about a boy in a flood. Are these parents going to be surprised that their kids are coming home telling them a story? Yeah. And then I'm going to tell them to do it with a gesture. You know why? The gesture is going to help them, and you have to trust me on this because I've been doing it so long. The gesture is going to help them remember the story. When they go like this, el agua sube just comes right out of their mouth. And again, when they're taking the test, I see they're doing the gestures. But here's the second part of the homework. The second part of the homework is come in tomorrow with your own story with one change, or maybe two changes. And it's not that hard to do. Instead of a boy, there can be a dog. Instead of him being scared, he could be happy. Instead of him running, he could swim. One small change. And here's what I do as the teacher, and this is my best day ever. You sit in the back of the room and you watch one student after another come up and tell their own individual story. Once they're doing that, they're creating their own stories. They're very interested in each other's. And then they can write them out, and they can illustrate them, and it grows and grows and grows, and it gets to be, have a life of its own. So that's TPR's storytelling. This is again on senoraglass.com, so you can have it. So, Four Corners activity. You may be familiar with this. If you are, you can go along with it anyway, just to be a good sport. Four corners. So each corner of the room has something. And this, again, could be any level. What we're going to do is we're going to do novice mid, novice high level. It could be Picasso in that corner, not actually a picture. a Picasso, a copy of a Picasso painting, and a Velázquez over there, and a Miro over there, and a Rivera over there. We studied art a little bit. We have the vocabulary a little bit. You can decide which artist you like best, and you're going to go to that corner, and you're going to tell someone why you like that artist best. Or, where do you like to go on vacation? Do you prefer the beach, the mountain, the city, or maybe the jungle? You're going to go to that corner, and you're going to tell somebody in the target language why you like that best. So when you get to your corner, and I'll tell you what we're going to be doing, what your choices are. When you get to that corner, find somebody who is your target language. If there isn't one, then speak in English to someone and tell them why you made that choice. So here's our 4 corners. It's a natural because there are 4. This represents the spring. And of course, you're going to do this, obviously, in the target language. This is not difficult language. You don't need to do any English for this. This is the winter. Not in Hawaii, but where I live. This is the fall, or autumn. And this is the summer, or Hawaii. So you need to decide in the next couple of seconds which season is your favorite and why. And I'm going to ask you to move to that season in 1 second. So in the target language, and don't just go where your friend goes, think of really what's your favorite season that you like. And on the count of 3, please get up and move to your favorite season. 1, 2, and 3. Ideally, you don't have a class of 100 people, so there's lots more conversation. Did anybody find out why somebody liked somebody liked that season whose name you can remember? Yeah. Which season? For spring. Oh, no. Heather said, we have summer off. Noriko and I both like the fall because both of our birthdays are in the fall. So, did you learn something about somebody that you didn't know? Yeah. Okay. Obviously, this works. With a smaller group, of course, there's lots of possible conversation. You just walk around, make sure they're staying in the target language. This was very simple. What season do you like? It could be what sport do you like? It could be anything that you like. But it could be, again, as I said, 4 different artists, 4 different anything. Great, simple way to get conversation going. The next activity is a jigsaw. And a jigsaw is a little bit more complex, but if you're sitting in a group of 4, and I'm going to give you a task to do in the jigsaw. And here's the task. We had this flood, you know, in Peru with the tiene miedo, you know, he's scared. Okay, so disaster is going to be our thematic thread, unfortunately, a little sad. So here's, that flood messed up some houses. We're going to check out the houses. But you need to do it together because one of you is going to see one part of the house. Another of you is going to see another part of the house because the house got ruined in the flood. Another person is seeing another part of the house and another part of the house. And you need to come back and tell them what you saw. There are going to be pictures. Don't bring back the pictures. Look at the picture. Remember what's there. And then compare. Now, what do you need to look for? And I'll give you out the sheet in a second. How many bedrooms? But you're not all going to see it at the same time. Somebody's going to see 1 or maybe 2. How many windows? How many chairs? How many balls? Because there are kids living in this house. And how many bathrooms? And how many beds? And I'm going to give you that paper in a second. And you're in a team. Your team, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you'll be team A, and you'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll mark off somebody's 1, somebody's 2, somebody's 3, somebody's 4. And then you're going to go to 4 corners. But for example, this is team A. Stephen is going to be 1. He's going to go to number 1. He's going to look at the picture, see what's there, and everybody's going to come back and tell them. But everybody's going to be moving to their corner. So you're number 2. You're going to go to number 2. You're going to go to number 3. You're going to go to number 4. Find out the information. Bring it back. Together in your team, by looking at everything carefully, you'll know all about the house. But one person by themselves will not be able to. So this is called a jigsaw. Why is it a jigsaw? It's like a puzzle. So you've got team A over here, but team A is going to separate into 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then come back together. So it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle to solve what the task is, and that is to describe the house. Now, I'm going to give you your sheets in a second, but I do this with my graduate students at Rutgers University. 1 is Krashen, 2 is Vygotsky, 3 is Chomsky, and 4 is Skinner. And they go, what's that? Well, we could make the jigsaw bigger, we could include fewer or more linguists, but the point is that the whole team needs to know about these people. Somebody's going to be the expert in Krashen. Somebody's going to be the expert in Vygotsky. Somebody in Chomsky, somebody in Skinner. That's not what you're doing. You're doing the house. Don't worry about this. But what else can you do? If you're doing a global project about energy with college or high school kids, you could have solar, wind, gas, and oil, the advantages and disadvantages. You're going to find out all the advantages and disadvantages in the target language for solar energy. You with oil, you with gas, and then you come back and compare. And you decide maybe which is the best energy source. Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu. You're going to find out all about that island. And then you're going to share it. Come back and share it with the other people. This is much more dynamic than a handout or a sheet or a reading. Because, first of all, there's movement. Did you just move around in the 4 corners? Yeah, kids need to move. And this is information and movement packaged together. It's interpretive, and then it's interpersonal. So let's get started. These are the instructions. Okay. Team A, you've got 4 people. And let me put out the, okay, here's house 4. Whoever's number 4 is going to go here. We'll make sure that we have 4 numbers. Open it up. And there are lots of pictures you can share. They're all the same. In case there's a crowd. Whoever's number 3 is going here. Okay, so team A, team B, you need another person. Can you be team B? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. As soon as you have your instructions, you might want to read your instructions first. Read your instructions. I saw some groups really, really busy at work, so let's see what we got. Obviously, this is in the target language. So what do you need to know? Of course, they need to know the rooms in the house, and ball, and window, and that kind of things. To discuss it, they need to say how many. So the vocabulary needs are very, very simple. But when we're doing Vygotsky and Chomsky, the vocabulary needs are much, much greater. So this same jigsaw activity can go up proficiency scale or down. It's a little confusing the very first time, but after that, After that, students know what to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Disperse and come back together. So there are a few things. You need to be able to express what you saw. And you need to be able to communicate that with other people. How many rooms do you think there were in the house in total? Okay, 6 plus the bathroom. What did you think? Okay, 7. How many groups had 7? Or how many groups had 6? And your 6 plus the bathroom makes 7. How many bathrooms? How many bathrooms? One bathroom. Okay. How many bedrooms did you find? 3. Okay. How many beds? If you count the crib as a bed, it could be 4. How many windows? Okay, 4 windows and a skylight makes 5. How many balls did you see? Did you find 2 balls? Yeah, so there were 2. There were 2 balls. How many chairs? Well, there were 4 chairs and an armchair. So that was 5. Can you imagine the kind of language and interchange this is? The movement, the excitement, the competition, and of course then the language. Along the idea of an earthquake or a flood theme, here's a scenario. You're telling your students that there has been a flood again in Peru, and we have collected clothing to send. And I'm the headquarters, and I'm going to call each wonderful state that has gotten together to collect clothing to send to help the flood victims in Peru. We're still on the same theme. So different states have different donations of things. And let's see, we have Oklahoma represented, and Texas, and California, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Arizona, California, New Jersey. You guys are all going to look at New York? You're all going to be New York? So imagine you're in the target language, okay, and you're going to get a call from headquarters. Bring, bring, Oklahoma. Hi, hi. Oh, of course, this isn't Japanese or Chinese or Spanish, whatever. Oklahoma, we're having a flood here in Peru. I'm at headquarters. I'm coordinating. Can you help us out with some clothing? Oh, great. We need it so badly. What do you have for us? 6 sweaters? Oh, 6 shirts? Oh, are they boys' shirts or girls' shirts? Boys' shirts. What else do you have? You have sweaters? How many sweaters? 10. Oh, that's great. Are they for men or women or boys or girls? 7 for women and 1 for a child. Oh, anything else for us? 18 pairs of shoes for women. We have women here. We could use that. That's great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anything else? Jackets. Oh, good, good. We had a very big flood and we need jackets. We're high in the mountain. What kind of jackets do you have? What kind of jackets? Wool jackets. Oh, that's great. We need wool. It's very cold. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to call another state. Thank you. Bye now. Okay. Okay. You get the idea. Okay. Why do kids go for this? You know why? Because they have had experience in their schools collecting things, canned goods, clothing. This is real. It's not real. There's been a flood, but it feels real. And kids know that, they instinctively know that. This is not just about clothing. This is, hi, can you help us? This is what kind of shirt? This is men, women, children. This is what is it made of? You can get quite a bit of vocabulary out of this, yeah. So, and calling behavior as well. So, I use, hola or bueno, depending, or diga, depending what country I want to represent. So that's a simulation, and you get everyone talking. You have to talk to each other to see what the vocabulary is. Information gap activity. We're going to do this real fast. Information gap activity means that you know something your partner doesn't know. And there's all types. You have a map, you're giving them directions. You've got information that they need, and they don't have. So there's a flood in Peru. We want to help out. We're going to make a Skype call, but we have to arrange the date and the time. So I have my schedule, you have your schedule. You can't see my schedule because we're on the phone and we're far away. And we're not using Doodle or a Google Calendar or any of the other possibilities right now because the other country may be not as into it. So I'm going to give you, and please decide on a partner, somebody right next to you. Don't look at the other person's sheet. Here's your goal. See how many times you can get together in a Skype call. See what the possibilities are. And be polite. If I say Monday at 3, don't just say no. Say, oh, I'm sorry, I have violin lessons, or whatever it is that is keeping you. So you're having a nice, polite conversation. How many times could you get together with your partner to arrange this Skype call? 2 times. How about you? How many? 3 times. How many? 3 times? Anybody else? 4 times?
We tried 3.
Well, the maximum, good for you guys, the maximum is 4 that works. So you get the idea. You do this with, with map and directions and all kinds of things. Okay, so moving on to fortune tellers. Some of you, I think, already know how to make this. This thematically can also be disaster. This can be pretty much anything. This could be every level. I've done this with 3rd graders, I've done this with high school. This can be done with AP, with advanced placement. Someone I know is a history teacher and teaches AP history and uses this for AP history. What's good about this? Everybody talking at the same time. That's the goal. Movement. You're walking around the room. And here's a sample, and I'm going to give you a sample, but let's see how this could work. This is for getting to know you a little bit. So here's your 4 choices. I'm going to give it to you in a second. Aloha, pau, pono, or mahalo. You're going to choose one of those. Then you're going to choose a number from 1 to 10. Then you're going to choose a number again, and I'm going to ask you a question. This could also be used as a fortune. It's used as a fortune teller. I'm psychic, so I know all about you. And maybe it says, you like to play video games. Or maybe it says, you love pizza. Or maybe it has a question. Maybe it says, tell me about the 3rd article of the Constitution. Could be anything. Here's what's good. You have everybody in the class walking around with a fortune teller, ask each other questions. So if you could hold this for 1 second. Thanks. Now, if you've ever made this, then you know how it goes. Probably it was a long time ago. There's a YouTube video, which I will show you, let's play on the way out, how to make a fortune teller. It's called How to Make a Fortune Teller. And all you need to do is go to YouTube, and it will remind you how to make a fortune teller. So here's what you need to do. Make a choice. Now, this is going to be in your target language. It could be 4 seasons. It could be 4 national heroes. It could be 4 of anything. So we have your choices: mahalo, pao, pono, or aloha. So which is your choice? Pono. So P-O-N-O. Okay, so it goes down to the side, down to the side. Okay, so P-O-N-O. Okay, choose a number.
5.
5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Choose another number.
7.
7. Okay. Remember, this is getting to know you. If you could learn a new language right now, a new one that you don't know, which would it be? And why? Because it sounds sexy. Woo! Aloha, pono, pau, or mahalo? Noriko. Aloha. A-L-O-H-A. Which number? 7. Ichi, ni, san, chi. Okay. Well, what was it? What number? 2. You have to move away from Hawaii because of some disaster, a flood or an earthquake or some disaster. I'm sorry. Where would you move to, and why? Japan. Aha. And why?
My family.
Your family lives there. Okay, no surprise. So here would have been your questions if we had more time. What city in the world would you most like to visit? What's your favorite way to exercise, and why? So if you had to leave the Earth, would you prefer to live in a space station or a marine underwater station? Any kind of question on any proficiency level, and here's the beauty. Everybody's walking around the class going like this with everybody else. And here's what. I didn't know what she was going to say. And I didn't know what she was going to say. And these are authentic questions because you don't know what the other person is going to say. And everybody's talking at once, and everybody's moving at once. So I have some that are already cut. This requires a square. You can take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, turn it into a square, and fold it. And how to make a fortune teller, as I said on the way out, I'll play it. But I thought we would, we might have a little more time, so I made some for you. Who has never used a fortune teller? Anybody? So we're going to hand out as many as I've had pre-cut. And then I'm going to show you one more activity. Moving on from there, digital voice recorders. Did you see the conversation with Isabel and David before? Normally, I don't videotape that. Normally, they go on these digital voice recorders. And I'm going to say why they're great. Sorry. I have a set for every class, for every 2 students. These digital voice recorders become a USB. So you see the USB? You plug it into a computer. Now, I started using different kinds of software. I started with a program called Audacity, but you have to be tethered to a computer for that, because it's on the computer. Then I switched to bring your own device, but that went home with the students. Then I switched to the students recording and sending it, but that became problematic too. So here's the solution that I came up with that has been working so well. Digital voice recorders, they don't go home with the students, they don't get lost in the email. You have the students record on here, and you can listen to it back. Everyone can listen to it back. You play it back, and you save it on your computer. 79 hours. You buy them, and then everything else is free. You don't pay anybody anything. They hold 79 hours. You can email it to parents. You can show it on Parents' Night. You can use it the following year as a sample, as a bottle. You could use it as an example of a really good one to play for the whole class. The kids hear themselves back right away. And I'm going to give it to you. No, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you to experiment with. I have 9 of them here to pass around. Here's how simple it is to use. You hit record, you hit stop. That's it. So how do I use these? These are for assessment, but they're not just for assessment. You have to build up to it. So let's say, remember I said that before when you saw Isabel and David, they had to talk for 3 minutes or more. But I didn't start out with 3 minutes. I started out with 30 seconds. They don't know who they're going to talk to. I have popsicle sticks and I pull out the name. So Noriko today may be speaking with Julio, but next time she's going to be speaking with Cindy. The time after that she's going to be speaking with Gina. She has no idea. I have no idea. It's random. That's the idea. Interpersonal means unrehearsed and unscripted. So if you're with your friend, you may know what the answers are going to be, but if you're with somebody you don't know that well, you don't. So here's what I'll do. I say, okay, everybody gets a partner. I go like this, or I count to 3, or you ring a bell. You get up, go talk to your partner. When you hear the bell again, it's time to stop. Then the next time I'll do it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And I'll say, what problems did you have? And they'll say, I wanted to say, I really love snowboarding, but I didn't know how to say that. Oh, okay, go home. Find out how to say snowboarding, because next time somebody asks you that question, you'll have the answer. You build up little by little by little, and then you say, okay, we're going to do an assessment. And you don't know who you're getting, and you have to keep the conversation going. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. They could either talk about what they want to talk about, or you can give conversation prompt cards, where they go and they go to a table and they pick up a conversation prompt. They're going to talk about their vacation, they're going to talk about their favorite sport, they're going to talk about their favorite movie, they're going to talk about a book. There's all kinds of situation prompts that they could use. But these, the kids go anywhere in the room, they can go out in the hallway, they can go any place and bring it back. You then listen to it. You can put it on the computer if you want to save it. You can save them all, or you can save none of them and wait for the next time. So after they practice their conversations, then they start practicing with the device. So they're used to it. And here's what I found. Here's something amazing. I found that kids who don't want to come up in front of the class and speak in front of others, when they have this in their hands, and they can go out into the hallway, or if they can go into the corner of the room, you get so much more out of them that you don't even expect, that you don't hear, because they're not on the spot, because it's private, and they challenge themselves further and further. So this is, to me, an extremely powerful tool. Digital voice recorders, the first one I got was $75, going down in price. My principal got a whole bunch for, I think, $35 each, and they're worth the price. So I'm going to give them out for you to just take a look at them. You can record yourself and then listen to yourself, and I think that's well past the end of our time, but you've been great audience. Thank you so much.